welcome to the console room. I am your co-host, Captain Joe Dove, and with me, of course, is your host of the console room, the magnificent Ernesto.
Time lords, time ladies, welcome to the console room. Thank you for joining us on this amazing adventure in space and time. My virgin voyage, if you will, as a podcast host. And I want to thank Joe and everybody at the 2BC Network for having this kind of trust, this kind of faith in me to bring you guys this new and exciting podcast about one of my personal favorite shows in all of television, Doctor Who.
That's right. We are going to be bringing you just a quick look back, and we're going to bring our opinions to the fray of the swan song for David Tennant in this inaugural episode, and that is The Stolen Earth. There is probably no better way to say goodbye to the Doctor than being amongst his friends, and he has all of the companions that you could think of in that particular episode. But we're going to first, of course, talk about Doctor Who? Doctor Who?
Doctor Who?
Doctor Who? Doctor Who? Doctor Who?
Fellas, you're never going to stop asking.
What a memorable moment of that.
Oh, fantastic. And of course, it has to be the Daleks questioning, Doctor Who?
That was such a fun episode. But we're in this particular instance, we're talking about The Stolen Earth, and we are going to be talking about David Tennant's actual swan song. He's the 10th Doctor in the what's called New Who, right? Am I correct? New Who?
I've never really thought of it. I didn't really do any research as far as what they're calling the 2005 forward. I've always just called it a reboot.
Okay.
But in reality, it really isn't a reboot because we're not going all the way back to the first Doctor. Russell T Davies decided to renew, I guess that would be the best adjective to use, to renew the show that he loved as a boy. That is exactly what he did in 2005, starting with Christopher Eccleston, who was the Doctor for 1 year, and he went on to regenerate into the Doctor we're currently speaking of, the amazingly talented David Tennant.
Yeah, so David Tennant has a special place in my heart because just like, you know, when you hang out with a friend in school and you get really close to a friend, you know a friend, and then you graduate and your friend goes on a different path and you kind of get weirded out and your new friend comes along. I kind of had that relationship with David Tennant because I was so invested in Christopher Eccleston's Ninth Doctor. And when David Tennant came along, I was like, oh, this is weird. I like him. It's still my Doctor, but just something about him. And then at the end, and by this episode, of course, I was like saying his catchphrase, I don't want you to go, because he had so many great adventures and the writing was just so on point in this series that it really, really was something when his time had come. Time had come.
Absolutely.
There's going to be a lot of time puns on the show, guys. Just be ready.
Oh, there will be so many wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey puns that this is just going to go on for days. Now, Joe, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Okay, since you were an Eccleston fan, do you think that when the Ninth Doctor was in the middle of his regeneration, do you think he not necessarily chose this younger face, but maybe in the back of his mind wanted to look more handsome for Rose?
Oh,
and this is why we have this
great question.
That jawline.
That's a great question, actually. That's something I wasn't anticipating, but I would agree, because in the culmination of this particular episode, this two-parter, that face got to go off into the sunset with that character. So I would say, yeah, I think that was the plan for the Doctor, to have a younger version of it himself to actually settle down and be with someone. And that poses a great long-term storytelling. because he was a hardened post Time War doctor that we got. He was the the not the time war doctor, but the wartime doctor. He was the coming back off of all that amazing adventure and the basically the destruction in his mind of his home planet Gallifrey. So
not just the destruction, but he caused it.
Yes,
he caused it. The Ninth Doctor is really the poster child for PTSD.
Yeah,
you could tell he really was just he was trying to be as devil may care as possible. The first Dalek returns, the first Dalek that he saw since the Time War, you can see and just portrayed incredibly by Christopher Eccleston, the rage that he felt, knowing what he knew, knowing what he had to do. And as fans, we go on to see exactly just how far the Doctor fell into being a soldier and how much it took out of him. The fact that he had to have a completely different regeneration just to fight in the Time War. He says it himself. During the Time War, he's not the Doctor. He's just another soldier.
Yep.
And now here's this beaten, war-torn man trying to, let me get on with my lives. Meets this incredible young lady, brings her on adventures through time and space, and she saves him, but causes his death in just the same. He saves her. And so there's obviously something going on between the two of them. And that, I think, is why he chose this young, handsome face so that he could look a certain way.
Yeah, more of a kin, like more of a match. They would favor
absolutely
each other, so to speak. Yeah, I totally get that. But this particular episode really gets into the end of David Tennant's time as the 10th Doctor, and also the end of Donna. But we also got a really amazing version of the Daleks in this episode. The world had split up, and we didn't know what was going on. It was kind of a little bit of a mystery box, but it was handled in such a way that it didn't last too long. And we got basically Crisis on Infinite Earths for Britain.
We are just crossing all kinds of fandoms tonight.
Yeah. When you get Joe, you get a lot of stuff going on in my head. Squirrel. But this was just such a tubular way to go for that Doctor. They really spared no expense. They brought all the right marks, all the proper enemy, and all the ways to do it correctly. This was a fantastic episode. It's one of my favorites. And there is nothing like the tease of regeneration when the 10th Doctor is shot coming out of the TARDIS by a Dalek, and he goes into that mystic hand and regenerates because a piece of himself was in that hand and stays himself. And they teased it because we all knew he was going to be departing from the show because he put in his 3 years. Well, this was a really cool way to handle it.
And that was the best way to end the part one of this story. The Stolen Earth ends with David Tennant, his arms asplay, and the regeneration energy seeping out of him. Rose almost in tears, and then cue the music.
And he comes back.
Making us wait one more week. What happened?
Yes.
We know David Tennant is leaving, but like this?
Yeah, it was a shocker the first time I saw it.
It absolutely was. And then the beginning of Journey's End.
Yes, the second part of this 2 episodes that you really need to see before the 60th anniversary, because we have the return of Donna and the 60th anniversary, and then we're going to transition into another Doctor, but you really need to get a grasp of what's going on, and this is the best way to just jump into the fray. I know a lot of our fellow Whovians that are watching this already know this story and already going, yeah, this is one of my most favorite beloved episodes, so I know what you're talking about. But we're just going over our own perspectives of this episode because it's one of my favorites, and I think one of David Tennant's standouts. This and the Return of the Cybermen are my two David Tennants.
Yeah, the Return of the Cybermen was a great one. For me, it was the two-part Daleks Take Manhattan.
Oh, that's a good one. That's Andrew Garfield's first appearance.
Andrew Garfield, yes.
Yeah.
Very young pre-Spider-Man Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, that was a fun one too. Especially
Absolutely.
because I worked in New York City, so it's like, oh wow, yeah, here we go. I know that spot, and I know that spot, and even though they weren't anywhere near those spots.
No, not for those. Not for those two. However, Matt Smith, Karen Gillian, and Arthur Darvill did come to New York City and recorded what was that episode? Series 7, I believe, episode 6. Oh, The Angels Take Manhattan. Yes.
Oh yes,
That was
that was pre-Fez, correct?
Those exterior. No. Matt Smith took a Fez early into his regeneration.
That's because
But
Fez
no,
is
this was the last episodes with Amy and Rory.
Oh yes, when they put him. Yeah, I remember now.
Mm-hmm. Again, another great episode.
Another great story that we'll definitely get into.
Phenomenal
in the
story.
future.
Of course, and a lot of it revolving around one of the women my heart's beat for, the great River Song. Probably, for my money, River Song is definitely one of the best companions in all the history of Doctor Who. And speaking of companions, let's talk companions.
See, I met this person and I got whooshed away across all space and time. I mean, I had the most amazing adventures, really. I mean, you wait till you hear, because I'm going to tell you them all.
So companions are probably the most important thing to the Doctor, aside from the enemies. And in this iteration of the Doctor, as he says goodbye, we got to see almost all of them. Besides Donna, we got Mickey, we got Sarah Jane Smith, we got Martha, we got Captain Jack, Rose came back, of course, and Rose's mom, and of course the amazing Donna Noble, played by Catherine Tate. Some will arguably say that that was the Doctor's greatest companion in modern Doctor Who, but I always go with Rose.
Rose is definitely one of my favorites of all time. And we'll discuss River Song on another podcast because, quite frankly, Alex Kingston and the character River Song, they need their own show.
Absolutely.
So
be on the lookout and
like,
make sure you subscribe. That's
absolutely. Right. You want us to talk about River Song for an hour? Hit that like and subscribe.
That's right, and ring the bell because you're gonna want to
ring that bell.
Yeah, you're gonna want to make sure you get notified of when we're on because you don't want to be lost in the sauce of time and space and not check it out.
What better way to end David Tennant's time as the Doctor than to have everyone he's interacted with come back and help him on towards the end of his time as the Doctor. Rose came back. Jackie Tyler was amazing. Even Mickey.
Yeah.
Sarah Jane Smith and K9. Captain Jack and the entire crew from Torchwood. Now, it's important to note that at the time that Stolen Earth and Journey's End came out, we had 2 Doctor Who spin-offs going on at the same time. We had the Sarah Jane Chronicles and Torchwood, both playing at the same time. So it's not like it was a stretch to get Elizabeth Sutton and John Barrowman back over in Cardiff because they were shooting their own shows anyway.
Right.
But because these 2 shows were direct spin-offs of David Tennant's Doctor, they had to have them back to bring everything all together so that they could go out, have their own adventures, and in a way cut ties with the Doctor so that they could go out on their own.
Yeah, this was, I would say, the big Avengers Endgame of the Doctor Who universe.
That is a great analogy. I've never heard anyone say that before.
Probably not.
This is why we keep you, Joe.
Yeah,
you know, the TARDIS.
That and the Fez, because Fez is cool. What I loved about this was seeing the great K9 again coming onto the screen and having a purpose.
How could you not?
Yeah,
how could you not love the disco that is K9?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the invention of the Roomba right there. That's what. But yeah, everything that you can think of, they threw into this one. The world coming apart, the multiverse, so to speak, just coming at you. And you had Donna's dad, who or granddad, who I absolutely
grandfather,
love.
yes,
yeah, Wilfred, right?
Wilfred,
yeah, Wilfred, who was just a soldier to the end, and he always had such emotion for. Not quite a companion, but like a side character. He was very good. He's a definite standout of the episode.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Unfortunately, the actor's name escapes me at the present moment. We did just lose him. I believe it was last year. So, you know, a great way to remember a phenomenal actor in this role that he made really his own. Wilfred was just a ball of emotion every time you see him. Just absolutely what you needed to balance the brashness that is Donna. You know, she was, you know, she's not a very easy person to get along with.
No. So like I was talking
put the doctor in his place.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me get the experience you had, and I'll share with mine, because just like I was saying with the doctor, when I first came across David Tennant, it was okay. I understand. I like him. He's cool, but you know, he's not Christopher Eccleston. I had that weird, you know, adjustment period. And same thing for Donna.
He wasn't your doctor.
Yeah, he wasn't my doctor at first, but when Donna came on the scene and in The Runaway Bride, she was a weird companion because she was giving him so much lip, and I was like, "What? Really? He's going to take her with him because she's a pain, you know?" And then at the end of her tenure as Donna, she will be returning. And again, make sure you watch these 2 episodes: Stolen Earth and The Journey's End. I kind of was like, "Oh yeah, I kind of like Donna. She's cool." You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the character grew, and all of their adventures together through space and time really made me have a different perspective. And I think that's the brilliance of the writing and the man at the helm, Russell T Davies. What about you with Donna? Was she an instant love, or was it somebody?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay,
in fact, to be perfectly honest, it wasn't until we started talking about doing this podcast and realized that, okay, we need to actually watch these Donna episodes. It wasn't until we started doing this that I actually got an appreciation for Donna. So many people have her as their favorite companion of Modern Who. And up until the last couple of weeks, I would have always put her way down my list.
Yeah.
But watching series 4, and yes, by the way, I will use the BBC designation of series instead of season. Rewatching series 4, and then Runaway Bride, the genius of Russell T Davies to introduce this character who essentially, Catherine Tate and David Tennant are very good friends, and they did a couple of shows. She had a variety show on the BBC, where David Tennant made a couple of appearances on. And if I'm not mistaken, initially she was supposed to be a one-off.
Right.
She was just supposed to be just for the Christmas episode. She was supposed to be the Runaway Bride. That was it. But apparently the love of Catherine Tate as the performer that she is, and the character itself, like, you know what? Let's give her an entire series. And, you know, there was just every single episode, you know, between the fires of Pompeii and
the one with the big spider on her back.
The one with the spider. Actually, well, I always kind of passed that one by.
Really? I thought it was because she freaks out. I was finding it hysterical.
But on this rewatch, though, I actually realized how important that episode, which I believe was called Left Turn,
Right. Left
how
Turn.
important that episode is, because that was actually where Rose started showing up
Right.
for
That's correct.
Stolen Earth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, Donna has definitely grown on me, and definitely taken some steps up the rung in on the favorite ladder.
Yes, yes. And that's the thing about Doctor Who and the long-term writing from Russell T Davies. He presents somebody, makes you love them, takes them away, and then introduces you to somebody else, and then you're kind of like on an awkward moment with them, and then over time it's like it smooths out. And it's really brilliant long-term planning. Especially
Which
even
is
with
still a
Rose.
lot better than Stephen Moffat, who just makes you love someone and then just kills them.
Yeah, I guess Moffat used to hang out with J.R.R. Martin a lot.
J.R. Martin isn't cool enough to hang out with Moffat.
He doesn't have a fez, that's why. But so the one thing that I absolutely love about this episode is the big tease. David Tennant's doctor gets shot by the Dalek, and he begins to regenerate, arms open. The whole kaput is about to happen. He's about to turn into, he turns into himself because he uses the energy from the hand that's been in the jar, and some of that energy gets on Donna, and that causes Donna to become like a human hybrid. There's a term that I believe you know.
Yes, probably the greatest piece of technobabble ever. Right now, the cast of Star Trek: The Next Generation are saying, "Boy, I'm glad we never had to say that." Donna was a human Time Lord Metacrisis. And it was that half Time Lord, half human. The intelligence of a Time Lord with the cunning and ingenuity of the human, and that brought out by Davros shooting her with that laser blast, that triggered the Metacrisis, and here comes Donna. Not just a temp from Chiswick, but she knows exactly how to beat the Daleks, because she is indeed what she's been told for all of Series 4, the most important woman in the universe.
Right, to the Doctor. And that ultimate cultivation obviously brings us to our big bad for this episode. And that big bad...
I shall now kill you, Doctor.
Yes, not the Cyberman, but the original Emperor Palpatine himself, Davros, the creator of the Daleks. He is the big bad in this swan song for David Tennant, the Stolen Earth.
But is he really?
Is it really
is
Dalek
Davros
Khan?
really the big bad?
Is it Dalek
Or
Khan? You think?
Actually, Dalek Khan, the Dalek who went mad, who was actually the first Dalek that the Ninth Doctor rescued on Earth, and went on to form the cult of Skaro, which we saw in Daleks Take Manhattan. But Dalek Khan is actually more of a companion to the Doctor. He's the one spewing all these prophecies that Davros is just taking in the way he's taking it. But it's the Emperor Dalek. He's the one who's just, he even says, "You're the playthings of Davros." Davros is locked away in a dungeon in his lab. Sure, he has a couple of Dalek minions, but is he really doing anything?
No, the Emperor Dalek, the big red one. Not like a red one.
The Iron Man of Daleks.
Yes, he's red and gold, just like Iron Man. You're right. Back to the Avengers. So
folks, we're going to be crossing fandoms left and right here. So
yeah, it's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. You know, you get used to it.
I don't know where he gets this stuff.
Yeah, so the Emperor Dalek is the big bad to you.
I definitely think so. It was, it's never really, if I'm not mistaken, it may have been Davros's idea, but it was the Emperor Dalek who actually put together the planetary engine and got those 27 planets to detonate the reality bomb. But they didn't count that one thing they didn't count on: Donna Noble.
Yes. Yes. And she pretty much puts them all in their place, saves the day. And then there is a creation from that hand as a side effect from the old Zappy Zappy. And that is a naked David Tennant. Yes.
Which I'm sure the ratings in the BBC went through the roof.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's the highest rated Doctor Who.
I have no doubt. Yeah, and of course Donna has to comment that, oh, and you're naked. But of course he would be.
Right.
This Doctor formed from the combination of the Time Lord hand and Donna's own energy, forming not a Time Lord, but a human with the face of the Doctor. For all intents and purposes, he is the Doctor, but he's human.
Yep.
He only has one heart.
Yep.
He will age.
Yeah.
He will grow old.
And
in this way, that becomes a gift for someone in particular.
That's right. Good old Rose. Woo! I tell you, this is probably some of the greatest long play writing that I've ever seen in a series or TV show, because Rose is set up as this beautiful young woman that this older, rugged doctor comes across and he can't be with, but he's befriended and takes her on the wildest adventures of her life. And he probably has become emotionally attached to her and she to him. And it led to this moment where he dies and comes back as this young, handsome man, because unrealizing it, he kind of wanted to be with her, but he couldn't be as such at this older, rugged face. So it's quite a long story once you get through it that kind of just fits into a perfect face of bow right at the end, like a bow tie, so to speak. It's tied up so nicely. And it's the reason why I absolutely love Doctor Who.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. The long-term writing is it's just perfect serendipity. It just, the synchronicity of the story is just melding together, and the fact that they're back on Bad Wolf Bay in the parallel universe that that Rose became stuck in. And now this doctor, this human doctor who committed genocide, who destroyed this Dalek invasion fleet, this Dalek army, he did what the Doctor did, what the War Doctor did centuries ago in the Time War.
Mm-hmm.
He committed genocide and he needed to be punished. He needed someone to watch over him. He needed someone to give him the love and tenderness and show him the error of his ways. And who better to do that for the Doctor than Rose Tyler? She did it once before, and now she can do it with the only man that she could ever love, the Doctor.
Yes.
And now the Doctor can return this love.
Yes.
Beautiful story.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful story.
Amazing story.
And that wraps up our very first episode. So be sure you ring that bell and you're here next week as we hop into what has happened in the time between that leads us to the up and coming face of the Doctor, David Tennant again. And a new face will be taking over from him later on. But we'll get into that timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff in our next episode. Thank you for joining
folks, us. If you want to join us on this adventure, like and subscribe. But for next week, remember to watch Jodie Whittaker's last episode The Power of the Doctor. That is available to stream on what used to be HBO Max. Now it's just Max. Those episodes of Doctor Who are still streaming on Max. But remember, the new 60th anniversary specials starring David Tennant and Catherine Tate will be streaming in the US exclusively on Disney Plus.
And that's not a commercial with Disney Plus.
Absolutely not. But, you know, if Disney did want to sponsor the show, we wouldn't be averse.
Yes, yes. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for our first episode. We greatly appreciate you coming and checking us out. I'm going to say some quick things to tidy up some business, so to speak. If you enjoyed the wonderful bumpers and intros, please be sure to visit our good buddy who created them all, and that is VHS Jace. He is talking about movie news and streaming over on Pop Culture Spread, and he is having a blast doing so, as we love hearing all the gossip and all the little dirts and details that are happening there. That is at Friday night, 6:30 p.m. in the U.S. every Friday. And of course, if you enjoy Captain Joe Dove, then you're going to want to go and check out the Captain's Quadrant. We do another side show called the Captain's Quadrant Section 31 and a half, as we have questions. That's going to be airing this Wednesday, which is tomorrow, right over on our sister channel, the Captain's Quadrant. So be sure to check that out. And if you do, please do subscribe to that as well. Ernesto, thank you so much for this inaugural jump into the fray over on the To Be Seen channel. Welcome with all wonders into the realm of that which is to be seen.
Joe, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It is an honor to be here. Thank you guys so very much. And hopefully everyone will be enjoying this. And again, tell your friends, the internet is a small place and we Whovians all know each other. So make sure to tell them all about the console room. Follow us on all the socials, and we will see you next week.